Hey Vikings Nation, how's everybody feeling today? If you're a true Minnesota Vikings fan like me, you know this is one of the most exciting times of the year. The offseason may look quiet on the surface, but behind the scenes, massive moves are shaping the future of this franchise. And today we've got some fresh Minnesota Vikings news that could play a big role in the team's long-term strategy. Now here's the teaser that should grab your attention right away. The Minnesota Vikings have just been awarded an extra pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. And not just any pick. This one lands at the very start of the compensatory selections, giving the Vikings another valuable opportunity to add talent to the roster. So what does this mean for the Vikings? How did they get this pick? And more importantly, how could this extra draft capital change the strategy for the Minnesota Vikings in the upcoming draft? Stick with me because this Vikings news might look small at first glance, but it could have a major impact on the team's future. Alright Vikings fans, let's break down the news. The NFL officially announced that the Minnesota Vikings have been awarded one compensatory pick for the 2026 NFL Draft. That pick will be the 97th overall selection, making it the first compensatory pick awarded this year. For those who follow the draft closely, you know compensatory picks are extremely valuable. They are awarded to teams that lose more or better free agents than they signed during the previous offseason. The league uses a complex formula that considers player salary, playing time, and postseason honors. And here's the interesting part. The Vikings earned this pick because quarterback Sam Darnold left during the 2025 free agency period to sign with the Seattle Seahawks. His departure qualified the Minnesota Vikings to receive compensation in the form of this third-round selection. Now what's even more interesting is that this marks the second year in a row the Vikings have landed the very first compensatory pick. That's not something you see often in the NFL, and it highlights how the team has managed the free agency market in recent years. Last season, the Minnesota Vikings also received the first compensatory selection. That pick came as compensation for the departure of quarterback Kirk Cousins during the 2024 free agency period. Losing a veteran quarterback like Cousins certainly changed the direction of the team. However, the Vikings front office turned that situation into an opportunity. Instead of staying at the original compensatory spot, the team traded down slightly in the draft. That move allowed them to gain additional value while still staying within striking distance of their target players. Eventually, Minnesota used the 102nd overall pick to select wide receiver Ty Felton. It was a strategic decision that showed how the Vikings front office is willing to maneuver the draft board to maximize value whenever possible. And that brings us to the bigger picture. With this newly awarded pick, the Minnesota Vikings now have a total of 9 selections in the 2026 NFL Draft. That's a solid amount of draft capital for a team that is still building toward long-term contention. Here's how the current Vikings draft board looks as of now. In the first round, Minnesota holds the 18th overall pick. That selection alone could open the door to several key positions, depending on how the board falls on draft night. Then in the second round, the Vikings hold pick number 49 overall. In the third round, they now have 2 picks, number 82 and the new compensatory selection at number 97. That gives the Vikings multiple opportunities in one of the deepest areas of the draft. But it doesn't stop there. The Minnesota Vikings also hold a 5th-round pick at number 163 that originally came from the Philadelphia Eagles. That extra pick could become valuable depth or even trade currency depending on how the draft unfolds. Moving further down the board, the Vikings hold pick number 196 in the 6th round, which came from the Indianapolis Colts. Late-round picks like this often produce surprising contributors if the scouting department identifies the right prospects. And then we get to the 7th round, where the Vikings have 3 selections. Pick number 234 is their own. Pick 235 came via a trade with the Carolina Panthers. And pick number 244 arrived from the Houston Texans. Now Vikings fans, having 9 picks gives the Minnesota Vikings a lot of flexibility. The front office could use those selections to target specific positions of need, add depth across the roster, or even package picks together to move up the draft board. And that's where things get really interesting. Could the Vikings use these extra picks to move up for a top defensive prospect? Could they package selections to target a future star at quarterback, cornerback, or defensive line. The Vikings roster has several areas that could benefit from young talent. The defensive secondary, interior defensive line, and even offensive depth could all be targets when the Minnesota Vikings step up to the podium in the 2026 draft. Another possibility is that the Vikings continue doing what smart teams often do: accumulate talent through volume. Sometimes the best strategy isn't just one big pick. It's multiple chances to find hidden gems throughout the draft. We've seen it before across the league. Some of the NFL's biggest stars were selected outside the first round. With 9 total picks, the Minnesota Vikings dramatically increased their chances of landing one of those breakout players. But now I want to hear from you, Vikings fans. What should the Minnesota Vikings do with this extra compensatory pick? Should they use it to grab another playmaker, build defensive depth, or package it in a trade to move up the board? Drop your thoughts down in the comments because your opinion matters here in the Vikings community. I read the comments all the time, and the discussions from real Minnesota Vikings fans always bring incredible insights. And if you enjoy staying updated with the latest Minnesota Vikings news, roster moves, and draft analysis, make sure you're part of the channel. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest Vikings updates. Share this video with another Minnesota Vikings fan who's already counting down the days to the NFL draft. Because Vikings Nation, the future of this team is being built right now, and every single pick could shape the next era of Minnesota football. Skull, purple circle, yellow circle.